Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining today's EMEA version of GRESB Investor webinar. We had one yesterday, which was the APAC version, went very well. Maybe some of you joined that, and we have the Americas one tomorrow. So I see some familiar names who signed up. We have about a bit over 200 registrants for today, which is, far exceeded our expectations. But we also have some prospect investor members who are interested to learn more about GRESB. So we'll get into a brief history in a second. But first of all, my name's Steve Pringle. I'm part of the Member Relations Division here at GRESB, and I'm also joined by my colleagues, Rolly Agrawal, who looks after the Investor Member Program. Some of you may have come in contact with her already. And then Jenny Wong, who is part of the Member Success team, but she's got a bit more of an angle on investors, so can help with portal demos, information about the technical issues of GRESB aimed at investors. So that's why the three of us are on the call. So GRESB, we started about 15 years ago. It was set up by 3 pension funds, 2 from the Netherlands, 1 from the UK, and it was their intention to get structured real estate sustainability data from their mainly non-listed real estate managers. So that was set up back then. It's evolved enormously over the last 15 years, so much so that we added infrastructure in 2016, and that was on the back of investor members thinking, okay, this works pretty well for real estate, let's do the same for infra. So much so that we had over 2,000 real estate submissions, and a submission is made at the fund portfolio level. And within those submissions, we had 170,000 assets globally report. Infrastructure, we have 2 assessments, 1 fund, 1 asset, and that we had about between 800 to 900 submissions last year. So we're still a membership organisation made up by what we call investor members, the information takers, and the participant members, the information givers, the fund managers, REITs, asset managers, etc. Then we also have another group of what we call partner members, who are the consultant solution providers, who really are the experts of ESG and real assets. So another important point I'd just like to make before I hand over to Rolly is around the foundation structure. In 2021, we had a bit of a structural change at GRESB. We set up a foundation, which is a non-for-profit entity which looks after the GRESB standards, both real estate and infrastructure, and it's fully staffed by the GRESB members. GRESB, the BV, which is all where my colleagues are employed, it's our job to fulfill these standards as well as develop tools and services to help the industry. So that's why the foundation was set up. We'll get into that a little bit more, where our Director of Foundation, Sarah Walton, gives an intro. But I'd now like to hand over to Rolly, who can give more information on the investor program. Over to you, Rolly. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Steve. And a big welcome to everyone on the call today. So at GRESB, we have about 150 investor members. So this comprises mostly large institutional and small institutional investors around the world. It's predominantly a mixture of pension funds and insurance companies. We have asset managers, obviously consultants and advisors to those investors and limited partners around the world, and also lenders are also accessing our database. Of the currently 150 investor members, about 60 of those are EMEA based. So I have coverage of our EMEA investor members, and I know that a lot of those investor members are sitting on the call today. So a special hello to those current EMEA investor members that are with us today. So I joined GRESB just over a year ago, and part of my joining was part of GRESB's effort to really put some more thought and resources into focusing on adapting our investor member offering in order to meet the unique and increasing information needs of the investor member community. And so part of my hiring and what I've been doing for the last 12 months and the rest of the team here is we've really tried to focus on trying to develop tools and products that really do meet what the evolving needs are for the investor community. So today's call is to talk about some of those things that we've been working on and to show to you some of the improvements we've been making. So in today's call, we're going to go through a couple of different things, which is all based on the community feedback and engagement we've had with the investor member community throughout our time here. So that includes, we're going to today talk about improving the current functionality of the current investor member tools that are available in our investor member portal. We're also going to talk about, and we're very excited about this, our new carbon footprint tool that we've developed for real estate investors. That was a very key need that a lot of our real estate investors were needing some assistance in this, and we have a very strong estimation methodology behind our carbon footprint estimations that we've been able to utilize to bring this to market. We're also going to talk about our SFDR solution, which for our EU-based members is very front of mind as well. We're very excited this year to release a new infrastructure development assessment, which covers infrastructure assets that are pre-operational, so in pre-construction or construction phase. We didn't cover that before in our infrastructure assessment, so we'll talk a bit about that today as well. And also we're going to talk about our governance group and our strategy roadmap. So we have governance groups that focus on our real estate assessment standards and our infrastructure assessment standards. And those governance groups, they are very much independent to the GRESB staff. So they are formed by industry members who are GRESB participants, GRESB investor members, and GRESB partners. And they are basically chaired by our head of product team, but they are the teams that look after the governance of what sort of questions and items should we be focusing on for the development of our assessments year on year. And so we'll hear from Sarah Walton later on, who will give us a little bit of input and guidance on what they've been working on and what the strategy is for the next few years for each of those. And I'd now like to hand over to my colleague, Jenny.
Thank you very much, Rolly, and welcome again everyone who is joining the call today. And I would like to give a brief overview on our investor membership offering. So more often than not, we receive questions from prospective investor member. So what is actually so unique about our GRESB investor membership? And actually, our current offering has 3 unique parts. So the first one is that you have access to all of the GRESB benchmark report. You'll get to view all the current and historic GRESB report for all of your managers who have completed the GRESB assessment. So for those who have subscribed to our listed database, you will automatically have access to all of the available REITs in our database. As for those who have subscribed to our unlisted database, given the confidential nature of these private funds, you will have to request access from the manager in our investor portal. But don't worry, this is a very simple process for you to request access from the manager within our portal. Second of all, you can make use of our data exported tool. So this is a tool that allows you to download the answer, data points, and the score from your manager GRESB submission in an Excel format. So this tool, I would say, is especially useful for analytical teams who are trying to deep dive into their manager's result on a specific topics. So for example, if you'd like to extract an Excel file showing which of your managers have senior management compensation linked to sustainability metrics, or if you would like to extract total floor area in terms of square footage and the reported energy consumption in your investment, this is totally made possible by our data exported tool. Thirdly, our portfolio analysis tool is also made available to you. Our portfolio analysis tool, or often we call it the PAT tool, allows you to conduct a high-level analysis for an investor to compare their portfolio against the benchmark of your own choice. So this tool is very useful for investors who just want to have a broad understanding on how their portfolio compares to a certain market benchmarks. So a new tool that we've developed this year, especially for the real estate investor, is our carbon footprint dashboard. This is a new product that our team have designed based on the feedback we've collected from the investor in the market. So carbon emission has been one of the most popular topics raised by the industry. So we're very excited to be able to release this new tool this year. So my colleague Hanish will later cover more in an in-depth manner about this tool in the upcoming section. One more thing I would like to mention is that we have a dedicated help desk available to all of the investor members in our GRESB universe, which is manned by myself and a number of my teammates. So this help desk is reachable from our general email address, which is info@gresb.com. We are here to help you not only to better understand your ESG data, but also to assist you with any technical question you may come across during your use of our investor portal and the tools. Now, I would like to introduce you to my colleague Victor, who will walk you through the latest development of our investor tools.
Hi there, I'm Victor Fonseca, Real Estate Associate and the Product Lead for the Investor Tools at GRESB. In this section, I would like to provide you with an update of what was improved, what is new, and what is coming for investors at GRESB. Every year, around October 1st, GRESB releases the new benchmark report and an updated version for the data exporter and the portfolio analysis tool. 2023, the changes included a new input collection for the portfolio analysis tool. We now capture weights as the percentage of ownership an investor holds on an entity. And for the data exporter, we've introduced a new saving functionality. We've added the portfolio impact data for infrastructure funds, and we also have some design changes. Also in 2023, non-listed investors can now request access to the products that their managers participated. These included the TCFD alignment report, the transition risk report, and also the SFDR report and data. Following this development, we also introduced a new feature for investors, the Express of Interest. This allows you to prompt your managers who may not have participated or requested one of the products to do so and share it with you. Additionally to the carbon footprint dashboard that was just released, GRESB is also working on a new dashboard that will provide a centralized, easy, and interactive way for investors to understand the ESG performance of their underlying investments. This release should be expected by the end of Q2 and will consist of an overview of scoring data at GRESB.
Okay, so thank you very much, Victor. So that was a whirlwind run through our latest improvements to our investor portal tools and a little sneak peek of what our team is working on. So over the past year or so, we've really put an effort into focusing on improving our investor tools, and we're very, very excited to be able to bring these new developments to the market as we continue to develop our offering for the investor members. I'd now like to introduce our colleague Hanish Bhatia, who is the product manager for our new carbon footprint dashboard, a new special tool developed specifically for our real estate investors.
Hi, I'm Hanish Bhatia and I work in the climate change team at GRESB. And today I'll be walking you through GRESB's Carbon Footprint Dashboard. GRESB Carbon Footprint Dashboard is a tool which GRESB has created to provide our real estate investor members with the ability to calculate, visualize, and analyze the energy consumption as well as the GHG emissions for their GRESB real estate portfolios. So as an investor member, to access the tool, you would go into the investor portal and click on carbon footprint in the right-hand side menu here. The page will open up for the tool, and at the top you can see the blue box here, which provides help and assistance to get started and understand the product. For detailed guidance, you can click here. This will take you to a web page which will have the gist about how to use the tool, as well as some frequently asked questions to help guide you and get started on understanding the product. To understand the methodology, you can click here, which will provide you the PDF, which has the methodology as well as a glossary of all the terms which are used in the carbon footprint dashboard. However, if you have any questions at any point, please do not hesitate to contact us, and you can click here, which will take you to the contact form for GRESB. To get started on generating a carbon footprint dashboard, an investor can choose the square meter or square feet as the unit. This will impact how you see the energy intensity or the GHG intensity in the carbon footprint dashboard. Then an investor needs to choose which of the entities in their portfolio which they want to generate a carbon footprint dashboard for. So this list will have all the entities to which an investor has been granted access to. So granted access to through the benchmark report. The entities should have filled out the performance component of GRESB. To choose which entities the investor wants to have the carbon footprint dashboard for, you can select each of those entities through clicking on the button here. There must at least be 2 entities selected to generate a dashboard. If there is a specific entity which you would like to search for, you can click on the search button here and use this option. And we also provide the ability to filter all the list of entity selection by location, by property type, by legal status, as well as by the investment strategy. For each entity which the investor wants to generate a carbon footprint dashboard for, what is required is to fill in the entity ownership percentage. This is the percentage of the entity which the investor owns. So this needs to be a number between 0 and 100 in percentage terms. So to fill it out, you would fill in what is the entity ownership percentage. This can also be in decimals. If an investor has access to a large number of entities, we also have the option here to export the list of entities here as a CSV. In the CSV, the investor can select which entities they want to generate the carbon footprint dashboard for, as well as fill in the entity ownership percentage. The rest of the entities can be removed, and then that same CSV can be imported through the Import Entities button here, and this will automatically be reflected on the tool here, which entity selection you have, as well as the entity ownership percentage. If you would like to view which entity selection has been made, you can select here, and the selected entities will provide an overview of all the entities which have been selected, as well as the entity ownership percentage. In case any entity needs to be removed, you can use the Remove button here, or if you want to refresh and start all over again, the Remove All option here can be used as well. Once these steps are completed, the investor can now generate the dashboard by clicking on the button here. After generating the dashboard, what you will see is this screen here. On top, you will be able to see this blue box which provides the link to a survey. Please provide us feedback through this survey, as it will help us improve the current product as well as future iterations of the product. You can see the number of entities in the selected portfolio, the same blue box with the guidance as well as the methodology, and the ability to contact GRESB for any questions is also available on the top. Below, you will see two tabs in the dashboard. So one tab is the Energy tab and the other tab is the GHG tab. These tabs provide the energy and GHG metrics respectively. Under each tab, you will have the option to navigate between two different views. One is the portfolio view and the other is the entity view. In the portfolio view, you will be able to see the breakdown of your portfolio's energy and GHG data as per the country and property sector. So on top, you will see the aggregate energy consumption metrics as well as the energy intensity by floor area for the selected portfolio. The chart below provides the split between reported energy consumption as well as the GRESB estimated energy consumption. So by using the GRESB estimation model, the data coverage is completed. So what this shows is how much of the energy consumption was completed using the GRESB estimation model. The charts below provide the energy consumption broken down by country and property sector. You can hover over the charts and this gives us the specific metrics for those country and property sector cross-section. The chart below here provides the same thing the other way around in terms of property sector broken down for each country. And you can also see what percentage of the energy consumption is being contributed by this property sector. The charts below show the energy intensity in the portfolio broken down by country and property sector, as well as individually for property sector and country. Finally, in the end, you see the table which provides all the data which was shown above in the charts in a tabular form. Scrolling back up, we see the filters. So an investor can interact with the data on the chart by using the filters here. So we can filter by property sector, by country, or by legal status if both listed and non-listed entities are included in this portfolio. Going on to the entity view. The entity view shows the metrics for each entity which was selected in the input stage. And the data here reflects the entity ownership percentage which was input by the investor. So this is based on the entity ownership percentage. This is not the aggregate energy consumption of the entity. On the GHG tab, the investor has the ability to choose between location-based methodology or market-based methodology as per the GHG protocol with these buttons here. On the GHG portfolio view, the investor will be able to see the aggregate GHG emission metrics as well as the GHG intensity by floor area. The data source chart will provide the breakdown as per the calculated GHG emissions based on reported energy consumption and the calculated GHG emissions based on GRESB estimated energy consumption. The charts here provide the breakdown of GHG emissions by country and property sector. The first chart provides the aggregate GHG emissions broken down by country and property sector. So on the left here, you can see the countries, and for each property sector in that specific country, you can see the GHG emissions arising from there. The percentages provide what percentage of the GHG emissions in the real estate portfolio does that country contribute. The same thing is provided in the chart below as per property sector, where it is broken down for each property sector and for each property sector by country. An investor can also see what emissions are coming from which scope. So scope 1, 2, and 3 as per the GHG protocol. In scope 3, this only includes the tenant-related building emissions in the portfolio, not the entire scope 3 emissions of that entity or that portfolio. The charts below provides the breakdown of the GHG intensity by country and property sector, and then individually for property sector as well as country. In the table below, for each country and property sector, it is reflected in the same data which was shown in the charts above. On the entity view, the investor can see the entity level metrics based on the aggregated asset level data as well as the entity ownership percentage which was entered in the input stage. So for all entities which were selected to be part of the portfolio, the entity level metrics can be seen in a tabular form. To download the data, which is shown in the dashboard, the investor can click on the download data button here, and the data can be downloaded in an Excel format for each, the energy portfolio view, the energy entity view, the GHG portfolio view, as well as the GHG entity view. To convert the entire dashboard into a PDF, an investor can click on the Convert to PDF button here, and that will provide a PDF format of the dashboard. To go back to your entity selection, the investor can click on the Edit button here, and this will take you back to the entity selection, which can be edited again, and a new dashboard can be generated again. The dashboard will not be saved, so if a new dashboard is generated, you lose access to the previous dashboard. We look forward to hearing your feedback on this tool, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hanish. That is a really thorough introduction to this new tool. I hope that this segment was a useful teaser for our new carbon footprint dashboard. We are very excited to bring this tool to the market and hope to gather more investor feedback on this. So please do not hesitate to contact us if you'd like to have a personal demonstration of this very new tool. Now, let's talk about our offering for the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, or SFDR, which many people on this call might have the reporting obligation for it. So we have developed a very specific SFDR reporting solution, which is completed by your managers to assist you to better gather, standardize, and aggregate your SFDR data needs. My colleague Fabio will now further elaborate on this. So in the meantime, if you have any question, please feel free to put it down in the chat box in this webinar, and we'll try our best to address them in the later section. If that is not possible, we'll get back to you via email. Now over to you, Fabio.
Hello, I'm Fabio Schweinoster, Infrastructure Associate and SFDR Lead at GRESB. In this section, I will introduce the GRESB SFDR solution as well as regulatory market trends based on our most recent analysis. First, what can we understand from market disclosure? In the last quarter of 2023, GRESB conducted an analysis on a subset of infrastructure participants that took part in the GRESB infrastructure assessment. By examining the information publicly shared, we observed that many managers disclose SFDR-related information differently. To start with, out of 35 sampled GRESB European managers, almost 90% publicly disclose PIEs at the entity level, with few of these managers providing product-specific information. When it comes to the EU taxonomy alignment in the public domain, the findings are consistent with the data presented in the GRESB benchmark, whereby only 20% of the analyzed managers have identified and disclosed alignment with the EU activities. Looking at real estate instead, managers tend to disclose real estate indicators only. What can we expect, therefore, in the SFDR for the foreseeable future? Overall, the SFDR is currently undergoing a comprehensive review, with clarifications on proposed PIEs data being made by the EU authorities. This will hopefully address the previous unclarity in the technical criteria. Despite these evaluations, challenges persist in understanding and navigating the complexity of PIE indicators. It's important to note that we have observed an improvement in data availability for relevant ESG KPIs, suggesting that the industry is progressing in its adoption of sustainable finance principles. GRESB can help reporting on the SFDR by allowing disclosure of PIEs data early in time and throughout the year. Essential features such as automatic aggregation logics, sharing data with investors, the download of PIEs information and report right after submission, as well as the ability to pre-fill previous year information, optimize disclosure efficiency, allowing for the lowest reporting burden possible. The SFDR reporting solution can assist in solving the hardest part of reporting with real data from a trusted source, giving you a more accurate PIE statement with asset-level data aggregated across the portfolio. For more information about SFDR and how GRESB can help you in this respect, please contact us.
Fabulous, Fabio. Thank you very much. Right, and SFDR regulatory reporting has been a pretty hot topic, as you can imagine, over the last few years. We've had a fair bit of success with our reporting platform for the sustainable financial regulation for our infrastructure side, and have it in current process of having quite a few discussions with our real estate investor members as well to get some more reporting from their managers. Okay, before I hand over to Sarah, the director of the foundation, and she also acts as the secretariat for the foundation, just want to encourage everybody to write some questions in. We've got a fair few from the registration links, but it's always good to have some read out live as well. Okay, so please, over to you, Sarah.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to this GRESB Inside ESG event. I hope you've enjoyed hearing from my colleagues around the world and are excited to embark on another year of data-driven sustainable investing. My name is Sarah Weldon. I'm the director of the GRESB Foundation, the independent mission-based nonprofit organization dedicated to owning and evolving the GRESB standards. Last year, the foundation approved many updates to the GRESB standards, several of which will affect how participating entities are scored based on their asset level performance. These changes, which are reflected in the Foundation's 2024 roadmap, are largely driven by market intelligence we receive from you, our global stakeholders, who have made it clear that evaluating real-world performance is critical for institutional capital to efficiently flow towards sustainable assets. For the infrastructure standards, participants are now offered more points to report full data coverage for both scopes 1 and 2. Additionally, the climate-related impact scenario analysis indicators are now scored. For the real estate standards, asset-level certifications are now subject to expiration, and we have also introduced scoring for net zero target setting and energy efficiency. In addition to the changes to the standards, there are also new tools that will support informed investment decisions, including the Carbon Footprint Tool Report, which details a portfolio's energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions, as well as the Transition Risk Report, which highlights an individual asset's projected performance relative to the CRREM pathways. To ensure the reliability of data that is reported to GRESB, our technology team is prioritizing our quality control program, which is designed to ensure compliance with the GRESB reporting requirements and that performance data is ultimately useful to investors. It's also worth noting that while evaluating both the management and performance aspects of portfolios provides a holistic assessment of each reporting entity, we acknowledge that some investors may find benefit in only utilizing the performance component of the GRESB assessments. By only participating in the performance assessment, members can receive a more limited benchmark assessment focused on energy, emissions, water waste, energy ratings, and certifications, which may be appropriate when an investor has limited operational control, for example. We hope you find these updates and tools useful as you continue to communicate with your managers on how to improve the management and operation of your real asset investments. As we look forward to the 2025 standards updates, the Foundation continues to earnestly grapple with the opportunities and challenges facing the global real asset industry. And therefore, it is important that we hear directly from you, the Foundation's stakeholders around the world. I look forward to working with each of you. Your engagement is truly critical to drive the sustainable market transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That was a terrific summary, and I hope it was useful for everybody to get an understanding of how GRESB is set up and how we operate. So before we get into the Q&A, well, I've been at GRESB for about 4 years and paid pretty close attention to the evolution of the infrastructure standards. It's a pretty unique part of our organisation, given that it's a pretty big challenge when you're trying to look at a standardized report for a diverse sector, which infrastructure is. Now, Rolly has had a lot of comes from a background of infrastructure, so I'd really like to get her view on the sector.
Thanks, Steve. So yes, I've been privileged to work with some European and global infrastructure managers for a big chunk of my career, since the rise basically of the boom of the infrastructure investment market into infrastructure funds since the mid-2000s. And so I'm not sure how many people on the call actually have a keen interest in infrastructure investment, but there will be some of you on the call. So for some of you, you might know this already, but for those that don't, there's a lot of varying characteristics that investors face when they're trying to review their infrastructure fund investments. First and foremost, what constitutes an infrastructure asset just continually changes because the managers are more and more looking for investable opportunities that bring them in alpha or that go above the core IRR returns. And so they're always kind of pushing the boundaries. And so you see the different types of assets they invest in change over the course of time. So things that are now very much investable assets for the infrastructure investment community, things such as data centers and offshore wind farms, were not heard of maybe 10, 15 years ago, but they're very much part of the landscape now. And so these managers will continue to push the boundaries. We start to see things like new asset classes entering the market nowadays, such as EV charging stations. Lithium mining is now becoming part of the investable universe, and also with the focus on energy transition and increasing technological advancements, you start to see investment into things such as hydrogen fuel projects, and that will become more to the fore as that technology develops in the next few years. Of course, most of these assets, almost every single asset, has its own unique characteristics, its own sectoral characteristics. It'll have regional characteristics, and many of these assets, infrastructure assets, can be operating businesses within their own right.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly where the infrastructure team have really focused their efforts over the last few years to find a solution that can be taken advantage of by our investor members, but also our participant members. So as I said before, standardizations, it's a real challenge when you try to apply it to such a large and varying asset group.
Yeah, so I'm really pleased about this new infrastructure development assessment that the team's developed and will be released this year. So what this does is it allows GRESB to service a portion of the infrastructure investment market that it really didn't cover before.
Can you explain what you mean by that, Rolly, in a little bit more detail?
For sure. So until now, the GRESB infrastructure investment standard catered to existing or operational infrastructure assets. There was not a direct catering for brand new developments or new build projects. So this is especially important for certain sectors such as renewables and data centers, for example, where there is a lot more new build going on and a lot more investor capital going into those sectors. But given the nature of how our infrastructure assessments were set up, they did not cater to that directly. They only catered to assets that were operational, that might have had a bolt-on acquisition or development, but not pure new build assets. So by issuing this new infrastructure development assessment, it kind of allows GRESB to now fully cover the investment universe and the full life cycle of an asset. So our assessment now covers assets in both pre-construction and construction phases, as well as operational phase.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's pretty exciting to be able to expand our coverage like this, so to meet the investor needs. So I can imagine it can also be a great tool for conducting due diligence on transactions in pre-operational exit strategies. Would that be right?
Yeah, exactly. So it really aids the engagement between the asset manager or the asset operator and the investor, just from the design phase of an asset through to its operational phase, therefore pretty much covering the entirety of the asset's life cycle.
And then for the output of the development asset assessment, how does it differ from the current infrastructure asset assessment that our members know and appreciate?
So in the development assessment, there's going to be a specific focus on forward-looking indicators with respect to greenhouse gas emissions, such as the ability to project or set net zero targets, to estimate the life cycle emissions, and to calculate embodied carbon emissions. So these are data points that are quite crucial from the investor community and to know about the projects that their capital is being put to work in. And it allows them to understand the long-term resilience and the ability to integrate into a low carbon future in their portfolio from the get-go, basically. Some additional elements that have been added as well as part of this new development assessment are material selection, so to ensure that construction materials are sustainably sourced and possess eco-friendly attributes. And life cycle impacts are also present in the assessment, and also site selection criteria has been added to the development assessment. It's worth noting that there are many management-related indicators that are going to be the same between the development assessment and the original asset assessment for operational assets. So this makes the transition for an asset when it goes from pre-construction and construction to operations. There'll be basically a transition that's quite smooth between our development assessment through to the asset assessment.
So come October 1st, when the results are released, what should members be thinking of that they should be receiving? So what's going to land on the investor members' inbox?
So apart from getting a new GRESB development score out of 100, which is all of our GRESB scores for all the funds that we do as part of our assessment, so it's always a score out of 100. They'll also get a peer group comparison based on sector, location, and importantly, development phase. So that's whether they're in pre-construction or under construction. And they'll get granular level comparison and asset level data for that portfolio. Additionally, they'll be able to extract that asset level data for any sort of analysis they might need to do for their internal needs with respect to those development projects.
Very good. It's very exciting development and can only provide better understanding and clarity to the infra industry. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm confident that it'll be very well received by the investor community.
Very good. Okay, now it's time, what everyone's been waiting for, the Q&A session. So I see a few questions have come in, so I'll read through those in a minute. But to start off, I'm going to read one of the questions. I think we got this a few times, so that's what the most popular questions. Let's start with them at the beginning. So it's a pretty good question to begin for investor members. How often is the GRESB data updated? Right, so the GRESB data is basically updated once a year for investor members. The reporting period for our participant members, the information givers, that takes place between April 1st to July 1st each year, so all through Q2. And then what occurs then through July, August, September is validation, review, verification across the submission that takes place by GRESB. We also have a third-party validator. And then October 1st, those results are released through the GRESB portal so the investor members can view those. Separately, we also have the SFDR assessment, the reporting solution, and that takes place all through the year. Infrastructure SFDR report is just about to launch now, and our real estate SFDR report platform will be launched sometime in next month, probably mid to late next month. So that enables a manager to report their SFDR metrics throughout the year. They can make as many changes back and forth, and then the output can also be passed on to their investors. Okay. Now I'm looking at the chat as we come in. We'll go to the next question, and I think we can send this over to Jenny, who's a technical expert on the call. Which frameworks and regulatory standards does GRESB align with?
So that's a really good question, and also one of the very popular questions that we usually receive a lot from the participant and also consultant or even investor member. So the GRESB assessment do not align with any one particular regulation or framework, but we do construct our questionnaire based on the topics and the guidance of many of the most widely accepted and adopted ESG framework and or regulation globally. So for example, these might include PRI, TCFD, CRREM, Green Building Council, and PCAF, so on and so forth. So also please note that each of the questions in our assessment, they are designed to refer to one or more key framework. So these are all noted down in the resources guidance for both our real estate and infrastructure assessment, which can be found online in our website.
Thank you, Jenny. While you're answering that question, I'm going to throw another one at you. This one comes from Ornella Filito from Derns. So is it possible to see in which end use the energy consumption of buildings is divided and not only the total consumption?
So my understanding is that this question is asking whether it is possible to see within the building how much of the energy consumption is attributed from the tenant or from the landlord. So if you have access to the benchmark report, then on the portfolio impact section, you will indeed see that on the portfolio level for this entity, the energy consumption intensity value, the data coverage after aggregation. And then if you scroll down to the energy section, we do divide the energy section according to each of the property subtype that the entity has reported. So within the indicator energy, we are scoring that in different sections. For one is about data coverage. The second one is for like-for-like calculation. And lastly is about renewable energy. So in the top section of each property subtype, you were able to see how many assets are actually classified within that property subtype, how many percentage of the floor area is classified as tenant control, and how many percentage of the floor area is classified as landlord control. So in this way, you have a brief idea on like how the energy consumption is divided within that property subtype. And then if you scroll down even further a little bit, you're able to see that in terms of data coverage, maybe for the landlord control area, the entity is able to collect more data and report more energy consumption data on that, while maybe sometime a bit less for the tenant control area. And then for the like-for-like section, you will also be able to have an idea to see that how well the landlord control area is improving or maybe not that improving as last year, and the same for the tenant control area as well.
Very good. Thanks, Jenny. I've got a question for Rolly, but there's another one that's just come in the chat, Bert from MN, so I might answer this one. Is the data in the carbon footprint dashboard based on data of companies that participated in the survey, so that's the full GRESB real estate assessment, or also on data of companies with just a public disclosure? So public disclosure is a separate assessment that also takes place during the reporting period in Q2. But what that is a little bit more of a simple assessment where the GRESB team initially goes through and scrapes a listed company's data, website, to populate a questionnaire, which we call the public disclosure assessment. That's about 22 questions, mostly qualitative information. So to get to your point, answer your question, Bert, no. The carbon footprint dashboard is just based on the actual full GRESB assessment. That data is then used to input into the carbon footprint, but we also use the GRESB estimation methodology, which again is sourced from all of the assessment data from the full GRESB assessment. Okay, it's your turn now, Rolly. So do we provide you EU taxonomy alignment?
Thanks, Steve. So this is a question that's quite often asked by investor members in the last few months, especially as people are starting to turn towards their SFDR reporting obligations. So what our answer to this is, so first of all, we don't formally cover EU taxonomy alignment at any sort of granular level within our main GRESB assessment. And it's important to remember that the main GRESB standards that we do, they are a global standard, and therefore trying to cover regional or jurisdiction-specific regulations, it's not easily achievable within our main global standard. But having said that, we do cover EU taxonomy alignment as part of our SFDR reporting solution, which is designed to cover that. So EU taxonomy eligibility and alignment are captured at the fund level within our SFDR reporting module. So for those investors who do have a specific need to find out the EU taxonomy alignment of their managers, we would encourage you to consider our SFDR reporting solution, and please contact us after the call if you'd like to explore that in any further detail.
Thank you, Rolly. All right, on to the next question, and please keep the questions coming in the chat. I see a couple more come in, and we still have time, good 10 minutes or so. Why might the energy and GHG values provided in the carbon footprint dashboard differ from the values an entity is reported in the GRESB real estate assessment? It's a pretty important one. Jenny, can you elaborate here, please?
Yeah, sure. So I think this is actually very similar to one of the questions that came in earlier in the chat. So it will be nice to really clarify a little bit on that. So first of all, our carbon footprint dashboard provide relevant energy and GHG metrics on the complete portfolio level. So in the cases where there is an incomplete coverage of the underlying data, we'll complete the data gaps by using our estimation model. So by using this model, we're actually leveraging the database of approximately 170,000 real estate assets globally. So our testing for this estimation model is shown to be 95% accurate. So I would say it's pretty representative for the estimation. So consequently, as you can imagine, unless the entity has reported complete energy consumption and complete GHG emission for every single asset within its portfolio, our carbon footprint dashboard will actually utilize our GRESB estimation model in order to generate these values to fill the data gaps. So thereby, we can provide the investor with a complete figure despite there are incomplete data coverage being available. And secondly, our carbon footprint dashboard does not use the reported GHG emission value from our GRESB real estate assessment. Instead, the GHG emission are calculated from the portfolio energy consumption by using both the reported data as well as our estimated energy consumption data. And we also apply a consistent set of emission factor in doing so. And this kind of approach to calculate the GHG emission will provide consistency within the completed GHG value of individual assets, as well as standardized comparability across every asset in our GRESB universe. Lastly, this value of the absolute energy and GHG metrics in the carbon footprint dashboard are all scaled by percentage of ownership that the investor has in a particular entity. So following the PCAF attribution method, so let's say if an entity is responsible for 1,000 tons of CO2 emission and the investor owns like 50% in the entity, then the investor finance emission will be shown as a value of 500 tons of CO2 emission. I hope that not only answered this pre-submitted question, but also the question that came in earlier in the chat.
Does for me. Well done. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, we have one other question that I'm going to send Rolly's way. Does GRESB track net zero targets? Rolly, do you have an insight into that, please?
Yeah, definitely. So progressing towards net zero is obviously a very big focus now for the investor community in recent years, especially as more and more managers and industry players are endorsing and publishing their net zero commitments. So here at GRESB, net zero has also been rated as one of the priority topics by both our real estate and our infrastructure standards committees. So as a little bit of background, to tackle the topic, at the beginning of 2023, GRESB convened 2 net zero working groups, one for the real estate assessment and one for the infrastructure assessment. So these working groups focused on researching and dissecting basically the nuances and challenges required to attain net zero within real estate and infrastructure assets and portfolios. So the results of those specific working groups, the findings from those working groups, have informed our strategic roadmap for each of our real estate and infrastructure assessments going forward, and it's very much a continual work in progress over the next coming years. So as of this year, for 2024, for our real estate assessment, we have now introduced scoring for net zero target setting. And for infrastructure, we are tracking net zero targets, and we are focusing on identifying and incentivizing better data collection, quality and transparency. But having said that, we are still continuing to research this topic to gather industry feedback and input, and we will further develop the GRESB standards going forward on this particularly important topic of net zero. We know that it's a key focus for many investors out there.
Very good. GRESB is changing. Good stuff. Okay, I think that was the last of the questions that we have. So unless anyone's very quick typer and get one in before the end, please go ahead. But unless that is a no, we'd just like to say thank you very much for attending the webinar. We hope it was useful. If you do have any more questions, I'd encourage you to contact our help desk. So that's info@gresb.com, but also to contact Rolly. She, as I said, leads the investor membership program. So full of information about what the benefits are of being an investor member, as also what you can get out of the investor membership for those who already are a member. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you to Veronica and the marketing team for doing such a terrific job arranging these webinars and making them go as smooth as possible. It's an easy job for us. We just do the talking. So yeah, cheers. Have a good day, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.